So today we are starting a new worship series, takes up the question of home. But by home, I am not talking about a mere physical place where a person might happen to sleep, or I'm not talking about a physical space where a person might happen to go to services. We all know that physical locations can change. We also know that physical locations are ultimately smaller causes of happiness than others. And there's an old story that kind of suggests as much. It is about a traveler who came upon an old farmer hoeing in a field beside the road, and eager to rest his feet, the wanderer hailed the countryman, who seemed happy enough to straighten his back and talk for a moment. "What sort of people live in the next town?" asked the stranger. "Well, what were the people like where you've come from?" replied the farmer, answering the question with another question. "Well, they were a bad lot. Troublemakers all, lazy, the most selfish people in the world, and not a one of them to be trusted. I'm happy to be leaving the scoundrels." "Is that so?" replied the farmer. "Well, I'm afraid that you're going to find the same sort in the next town." And disappointed, the traveler trudged on his way, and the farmer returned to his work. And times later, another stranger came, coming from the same direction. He hailed the farmer. They stopped to talk. "What sort of people live in the next town?" he asked. Well, once again, the farmer replied with a question. "Well, what were the people like where you have come from?" "They were the best people in the world, hardworking, honest, friendly. I am so sorry to be leaving them." "Fear not," said the farmer. "You'll find the same sort in the next town." That's an old story. Some of you might have heard that before, but it's a good one. Now, I do want to affirm that sometimes you have to move. Sometimes it really is in your best interest to leave town and go to another. But the story does suggest that there are times that the only change that needs to happen is a change of heart, a change of attitude. The sort of change that helps us find our way home. Because the kind of home I am talking about is precious. It is where we are happy and at peace. It is where we feel safe and where we are given strength to launch ourselves into the challenges of our world. It's where the heart is, where the soul thrives, where we are inspired to be our best selves. It is where we want to be. But where is that? And can you really take it with you, just like the second traveler in the story, meaning that you can be less fear-based and less stressed out and more open to the people who come into your life, more hopeful about what your world can offer you, despite everything, despite all, no matter what your physical location happens to be? And I believe the answer is yes. And for the next month, our preaching team of myself and Reverend Rogers and our intern minister, Taryn Strauss, we're going to be exploring how and why. Now, today's angle on the question of home is inspired by a Zen Buddhist gem of a story. The Zen master, Nanin, he's in conversation with a professor who wants to talk about Zen. And just for fun, I would like to invite you to conduct a similar experiment with someone that you may be in conversation with. They come and ask you a question, and let's say you're drinking coffee together, and you pour them some coffee and just keep pouring. And just let it overspill. This is your science experiment for the day, and please let me know what happened. And what you say. Of course, what Nanin says is great. You know, your cup is too full. How am I going to teach you something when your cup is so full with your own ideas and understandings and so on? Actually, why don't you say what Nanin says? And I really want to hear what the response is going to be. Like, how dare you? It's about, you're fired. Right. So be careful about where you do this experiment, right? Empty your cup. That's the phrase we get from that story. Now, other Buddhist stories, they have another kind of phrase that they like to use, a different metaphor. They talk about monkey mind, and how we are predisposed to disconnect from the present moment and get lost in worries about the past or worries about our future, to mind wander. to recklessly vault from thought to thought like a screaming monkey swinging from tree to tree. Well, whichever metaphor we use, the point is that Zen cannot get in. Zen can't get in. Richness, vitality, happiness, creativity, understanding, transformation, peace can't get in because the space of the mind is already full of mind stuff. And that mind stuff is primarily anxiously self-referential. Why did she look at me like that? What did he mean when he said that exactly? Why did I do that thing that I did? Is my nose too big? Am I too short? No, really, I'm getting short. That was... Do I sound weird? George, you're awesome. This guy. He was supposed to do it when I said, do I sound weird? But instead I was short. Said, are they liking the sermon? The story of me, says mindfulness researcher Jon Kabat-Zinn, whom we heard from in the video a moment ago. He says it's often a depressing story and a fear-based story. We're like driving the car with the emergency brake on, right? It's like this. You are at an amazing vacation spot. Amazing. And this is what you say. You say, this place is beautiful. I want to come back here someday. No, really, just listen to what you just said. Because you're already there. So why are you wanting to come back to it? Because you're there. Enjoy. That is what it looks like to be driving, right, with the emergency brake on. That's what you're doing to your life. Jon Kabat-Zinn's scientific findings on all of this, they're echoed and extended by that of happiness researcher Matt Killingsworth. People are indeed less happy when their minds are wandering than when they are in the moment. And this is true, he says, no matter what might be actually happening in that moment. People don't like commuting to work very much, he says. Actually, do we really need him to say that? We kind of already know that driving in Atlanta traffic is, like, for how many of you is that a vacation time? Is that, it's like, why do we even ask that question? It's just bad. We don't need a scientist telling us that driving in traffic is like a terrible thing. But he goes on to say, it may be one of our least enjoyable activities, but people are substantially happier when they're focused only on their commute than when their mind is going off somewhere else. Even when you're in the middle of traffic, you are still in a happier place when you just focus on your driving as opposed to going all over the place with your mind. I think that is pretty amazing. And what is also amazing is his scientific finding that people's minds wander 47% of the time. 47% of the time, the cup is overfull and no more is going to go in. 47% of the time, we are not home. We are not where the heart is. We are not where the soul thrives. So what are we going to do about that?